This energy cube was so revolutionary they buried it to protect the oil industry. 1943, the Eastern Front was freezing soldiers to death. Then military scientists discovered an energy principle so fundamental it threatened every fuel company on Earth. In the annals of classified research, some discoveries are so profound they redefine the very boundaries of what we consider possible. They don't just represent an incremental step forward, they represent a quantum leap, a fundamental shift in our understanding of the physical world. These are the breakthroughs that are immediately whisked away from public view, their existence known only to a select few, their potential deemed too powerful for open dissemination. The story of the catalytic heat multiplier is one such discovery, born from a quiet government-funded project with a deceptively simple mandate to create a better way to stay warm. The research team was tasked with overcoming the inherent limitations of conventional heat sources. Batteries were heavy and offered limited duration. Combustion was inefficient, dangerous, and required a constant supply of oxygen and fuel. The goal was something else entirely. A self-contained, long-duration, high-efficiency heat source that could operate in any environment, from the vacuum of space to the crushing pressures of the deep sea. For years, progress was slow, marked by frustrating dead ends and failed experiments. The team explored dozens of exotic materials and theoretical pathways, but the fundamental problem of energy density remained unsolved. How could you store a massive amount of thermal potential in a small, stable package? Then, the breakthrough arrived, not with a bang, but with a quiet, persistent warmth. It was the culmination of a novel approach combining principles of material science and catalytic chemistry. The result was a small, unassuming object, no larger than a deck of cards. This was the first prototype. Discovery 1. The catalytic heat multiplier. This cube used specific chemical ratios that produced 8 hours of steady heat from materials that should only burn for minutes. The process was elegant in its function. A tiny amount of a simple liquid fuel, initially just a few milliliters of alcohol, was introduced to the cube's porous structure. Instead of burning, the fuel initiated a catalytic reaction within the cube's core matrix. This reaction didn't consume the fuel in a conventional sense. Rather, it used the fuel as a trigger to unlock the potential energy stored within the cube's own engineered material. The effect was astonishing. The cube radiated a consistent 150 degrees Fahrenheit for 8 solid hours, without any flame, without any emissions, and without consuming any oxygen. The researchers checked their instruments, recalibrated them, and ran the test again. The results were the same. They had created a reaction that didn't just produce heat, it multiplied the energy output of its trigger fuel by several orders of magnitude. It was a violation of what they thought they knew about thermodynamics, a trick of chemistry that seemed almost magical. The implications were staggering, and the project's overseers understood them instantly. This wasn't just a better hand warmer, it was a technology that could power silent submarines, heat off-grid habitats indefinitely, and change the face of both covert operations and civilian life. The risk of such a technology falling into the wrong hands was deemed unacceptable. The formula was immediately classified. All research notes were confiscated, the lab was sanitized, and the team was debriefed and reassigned, bound by non-disclosure agreements so severe they effectively erased the project from existence. The catalytic heat multiplier vanished into the shadows of the black budget world, its full potential yet to be seen. Discovery 2. The energy amplification effect. The cube produced 500% more heat than the chemical energy contained in its ingredients. Physicists still debate how this was possible. For millennia, humanity's understanding of heat and fire was anchored to a single unshakable principle: the necessity of oxygen. From the first controlled flames sparked by our ancestors to the roaring engines of the Industrial Revolution, combustion was a chemical dance, a reaction that required fuel and an oxidizer. This fundamental law of physics was taught in every classroom, accepted as an absolute truth. To create heat was to consume air. But the third major discovery surrounding the energy cube would not just challenge this principle, it would shatter it completely, forcing scientists to rewrite the very textbooks they had learned from. This was the discovery of oxygen-free energy generation. The revelation began, as many great discoveries do, almost by accident. During a series of routine durability tests, a researcher placed an active cube inside a vacuum bell jar, intending to study its material integrity in the absence of atmospheric pressure. The standard procedure was to observe how the cube cooled once the air, the medium for convective heat transfer, was removed. The vacuum pump whirred to life, evacuating the chamber. Everyone in the lab expected the cube's thermal signature to begin its steady decline. But it didn't. On the thermal imaging monitor, the cube remained a beacon of intense, unwavering heat. It was a ghost in the machine, an impossible observation that sent a ripple of confusion and excitement through the control room. This single anomaly triggered a rigorous and systematic investigation. The team needed to prove, beyond any doubt, that what they were witnessing was real. The first test was to replicate the vacuum experiment, but this time with highly sensitive oxygen sensors placed inside the sealed chamber. The result was conclusive. As the cube radiated immense heat, the oxygen level remained perfectly static. Not a single molecule was consumed. Next, they submerged it. An active cube was lowered into a large insulated tank of cold, clear water. Instead of being extinguished, a fate that would befall any conventional flame, the cube began to do the opposite. A gentle shimmer of heat radiated from its surface, and soon the water around it began to warm, then simmer, and finally boil. No bubbles of consumed gas, no chemical reaction, just pure, silent, and relentless heat transfer. The implications were staggering. The final test was the most practical. They placed the cube inside a hermetically sealed, lead-lined container, simulating the conditions of a deep Earth bunker or a long-duration spacecraft. For weeks, instruments monitored the container's internal atmosphere and temperature. The results were always the same. Unlike any other heat source, this cube worked in sealed bunkers, underwater, even in vacuum conditions. It didn't consume oxygen to produce heat. The process was entirely self-contained, a perfect closed-loop system of energy release. It wasn't combustion in any sense we knew. It was something else entirely. A new chapter in physics, opening the door to applications humanity had previously only dreamed of. Discovery 4. The invisible heat source. The cube produced intense warmth with no light for enemy detection, no smoke for position revelation, no scent for tracking dogs. Discovery 5. The universal fuel compatibility. This was perhaps the most paradigm-shattering aspect of the cube, the one that promised to rewrite the very rules of our global economy and our relationship with the planet. For millennia, humanity's progress has been tethered to specific, often scarce, and environmentally costly fuel sources. We chopped down forests for wood. We tore open the earth for coal, oil, and natural gas. We harnessed the immense but dangerous power of the atom. Each step forward came with a heavy price, a debt passed on to future generations. The cube rendered that entire history obsolete. It didn't just offer a new fuel source, it offered a new definition of fuel itself. The cube could use hundreds of different fuel sources, from kitchen waste to yard debris to common chemicals. Anything organic could power it. This wasn't an exaggeration for effect. It was a literal, demonstrable fact. The apple core you were about to toss, the coffee grounds from your morning brew, the grass clippings from your lawn, these were no longer waste products. They were now high-density energy packets. The technology operated on a principle of molecular disassembly, breaking down any carbon-based matter into its constituent parts and releasing the stored chemical energy with near-perfect efficiency. This process was not combustion. There was no fire, no smoke, no ash. It was a clean, silent, and complete conversion. The implications were staggering. A single household could, in theory, power itself for a week on the contents of its own trash and recycling bins. Landfills, those vast, festering monuments to our throwaway culture, were no longer liabilities. They were now strategic energy reserves, mines of untapped power waiting to be harvested. The team tested this hypothesis with astonishing results. They fed it agricultural waste, like corn husks and rice straw, which are often burned in the fields, creating massive air pollution. The cube consumed them without a trace. They introduced plastics, the scourge of our oceans, and a notoriously difficult material to recycle. The cube broke them down effortlessly, converting their complex polymer chains into pure, usable energy. Even materials like old clothing, paper, and certain types of industrial solvents were viable. The fuel wasn't something you had to buy, it was something you simply had. It was all around us, in our homes, our businesses, and our garbage dumps. This discovery didn't just promise energy independence for nations, it promised energy sovereignty for every individual. The power to create power was no longer in the hands of a few corporations or governments. It was now in the hands of everyone. Discovery 6, the precision thermal regulation. Unlike fire that fluctuates, the cube could maintain exact temperatures for cooking, warmth, or medical use without any controls. 1946, the cube inventor disappeared. All patents were seized under national security. Oil companies paid universities to discredit the technology as impossible. With energy systems failing and fuel prices exploding, this forbidden technology isn't history. It's your family's energy independence plan. In 24 hours, you can build this cube from hardware store materials. No special skills, no rare ingredients, just applying suppressed knowledge. They buried this to keep you paying monthly bills. Now you can heat your home, cook your food, and survive any crisis without depending on failing systems. Your survival doesn't depend on the grid. It depends on reclaiming this forbidden energy technology starting today.